So some people cannot access back the, there you go. That's it. Yeah, my speakers are here. That's good. Brilliant. So we can start. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first session of ArchTalk Season 2, because yes, we had a beautiful intervention. Like we had a beautiful session last year, and this year we're repeating. Thank you to Safe Cultural Heritage Group for putting together this event. And I am Laura, also known as Plumas, and I am one of the partners. I am one of the media partners and your moderator for these and the coming session. The few preceding details before coming, the links to the speakers' interventions will be posted on the chat. Once this is up there, you will just click and follow. We will watch the video as it is streamed on YouTube, and then we can come back for a really quick Q&A session, but do not fret because a longer one will follow. And please allow me to explain a little bit what this first session how it came to be. This is called Ancient Paths, Modern Tracks. And this is a session I put together myself, and I couldn't be happier because I wanted to explore and invite beautiful and interesting, so talented speakers to talk about how the use of historical and archaeological heritage in modern media impacts the general public, especially I'm thinking series, films, video games, novels, comics. And in the session, we will explore how the products portray different ideologies, enable projections of the present time, and create narratives of self-definition. A few words that I really like. So this is awkward because I have to introduce myself as a moderator, and I think we can, we can kick this off really quickly. Yeah, my name is Laura. I am a doctor via the University of St. Andrews, and I specialize in mythology. Thank you, Tilly. I specialize in mythology, literature, and the art of the Persian Age. I also work as a narrative and game designer myself, and I am the director and only person behind the project Las Plumas de Simur, in which I share knowledge about Iran and Mesopotamia. Also, I am a member of the group, the research group History and Video Games, and I'm a tea lover and a mythonithologist, according to my own people. As far as I can see, the link to the first intervention, which is yours truly, is it's not still up. It will in just a few minutes, I'm pretty sure. And what I'm going to talk about in the paper is the Achaemenids, because every excuse is a good excuse to talk about the Achaemenids. But I will showcase how this dynasty is portrayed in a video game, a film, and a comic. And I will analyze the elements used to present the legacy and culture, and also discuss the public's perception related to ancient Iran. So, okay, so it's not working for me, unfortunately, but if the video is working for you, let's all go see it. And I mean, it's my intervention. It's not a big deal if I don't. No, it's not working for us, unfortunately. Let's check this one now. Unfortunately, the video link is still not working. It might be that the label is private, and since the video, yes, exactly, if the video is private, we cannot access it. And maybe it's scheduled for like 12:10 UTC +1, because that's how the program indicated, at least to me. But okay, so I am seeing, is anyone able to? Okay, let's try now. We will go. Oh, there you go. The video is there. Brilliant. So the video is up and ready to be watched. So, all right. So what about we go and watch it, and I will meet you guys in here afterwards. And yeah, see you in a bit. Thank you. Thank you. I'm really happy you liked my Achaemenid because I do love myself a good Achaemenid spoken speech speaking. I love the Achaemenids, and as I was saying, any excuse is the excuse to talk about them. And did you know, my first question to you would be, did you know there was a sequel to the incredible The 300, the film? Because I did know, and I watched it, and it's even worse than the previous one. It's oh boy, it's a ride, because it yeah, we didn't need one, but there is one. And yeah, it's about oh, what's the name of this guy, the dude, the features, evergreen features as Artemisia from Caria, and is it Themistocles? I'm unsure. I mean, that's how much of the film it's still on my brain. Nothing is there. It's hilarious. I mean, if you wanted to watch it as unintentional comedy, like, feel free to. Do not expect. They did. I was commenting on the talk. No one intended the film to be historical. No one. I'm really happy you liked it. I think we have a few minutes in case someone wants to ask any question. Don't worry, we'll have a Q&A session afterwards. But in the meantime, is there something you would like to add as we are waiting for the next YouTube link to be on? Oh, some people are joining us. Yes, more and more people do. And if you know any Achaemenid passionate person, you can send them the video, because I reckon as a Greek person, I found this really interesting. Oh, did you? Have you played Assassin's Creed Odyssey? I have to say that I have myself. So, although I haven't played the latest one, the one that was supposedly set in Baghdad, still haven't. I've recommended knowledge on my... Thank you. Did I like it? No, I didn't. Well, because the representation of the Achaemenid Empire is incredibly, and perhaps intentionally terrible. No, it's okay. It's the best one, Isaac. Like, the best one, Assassin's Creed 1 is the very first one. And we are going to move on to the next speaker. And do you know the pleasure that it brings me to introduce the next speaker? Because people, get yourselves as good friends as the ones accompanying me today. Let us meet and welcome our next speaker, Alberto Azcueta Mendaña, also known as my personal vizier. Alberto is a computer technician and an art history enthusiast, and he studied chemistry at the Universidad Autónoma in Madrid. And it's such a pleasure having you here, Alberto. You know that. I'm delighted. And for the last 20 years, he's been working as a programmer and analyst for different companies. And now he has a Twitch channel where he shares his passion for comics, from the origin to the impact in history. And in his paper, which is called Super Archaeology, Instances of Archaeological Representation in Comics, Alberto will discuss how comic creators use elements from various sciences, including archaeology, to create origin stories of heroes and different civilizations. These comics may provide an interesting perspective on archaeological activities and serve as a way to educate and attract audiences. These comics were also published during active military times and followed specific agendas. So I honestly can't wait to hear everything you have to share with us, Alberto. So, what do you say? Do we go live and we go to the link? Let's see this one. Here's the link for Alberto.
Yes, but it's private.
Yeah, it will go live in just a second. Okay, so it's live now. Yes, it is. So we can all go to the link over here. And then because it's live, we will have the pleasure to watch it all together. And we will see you here afterwards for a few minutes of questions. So enjoy the talk. That was so good. Qué bonito. Muchísimas gracias, Alberto, por esta increíble intervention. Thank you so much for this powerful intervention and this talk, which have you guys enjoyed as much as I did? I certainly have. I have, though. I do have. So we have a few minutes for questions. I think everyone's back. Is someone waiting still? No one's waiting. Everyone's still here. Okay, so we have a few minutes until our next recorder session starts. So if someone was to ask any question or si queréis hacer preguntas, because we can take them in both languages. Si alguno quiere hacer alguna pregunta, porque nos quedan algunos minutillos todavía hasta que empiece nuestra siguiente ponente, feel free to post them on the chat and I will pass them on to Alberto. You can read them yourself because you are such an avid reader. I'm reading all the messages from the Jinn. Sorry. I muted myself somehow. But Jen, I need to extend to you how many messages we are receiving, like all the ways, from all the sites. Everyone really liked your presentation. I think it was fantastic as well. And comics are always the forgotten ones in modern media. I think you have video games and films, but not so much comics. And yes, Mahor can relate as a comic artist herself. I think they can already. I think she has enjoyed your presentation like the most. Was certain. And it wasn't you were super clear. No one has questions. Good job. You have to follow Alberto on social media. So yeah, good job. Excellent. Brilliant job. Alberto. Sí, señor. Muy bien. I mean, I'm switching to Spanish because I think I can transmit my congratulations better in that language, and also because it's Alberto's and I mother tongue, so we're more used to speak between each other in Spanish than in English. So yeah, I think we can move on to our next speaker. Again, someone that I am delighted to introduce. Por favor, Alba, can you come here with me? We are introducing and meeting the fantastic divulgadora, because I love that word, Alba Secol, and she will be talking about the artistic and cultural dissemination in Hades, a video game that I do encourage you to play, because El Vicio, like it has so many hours of my life already. So Alba is an affiliated cultural educator and a radio conductor and Radio Nacional de España, that's the national Spanish radio station, and she's got her art history degree via the Universitat de Barcelona, and she was an exchange student in Momoyama Gaukin Daigaku in Osaka, Japan. How cool is that? And she specializes in the analysis of history and art history with gender perspective, connections between video games and the plastic arts, Japanese culture and performing arts. And from 2013, I believe, Alba has held various roles in content creation and journalism and cultural promotion. And she is her own, like me, she is the CEO of her own project that has her name, Alba Secol, which I do encourage you to follow. And in this paper, we're going to talk about Hades, are we not? We're going to talk about the video game Hades by Supergiant Games. Again, do yourself a favor and play Hades. But maybe it's not a favor because it will like change you for forever.
Yes, a little bit, but it's very enjoyable.
It is fantastic.
It really is.
Yeah, and what we are going to see in Alba's presentation is how the Greek mythology is presented in the game via the art and the dialogue and the narrative to a modern contemporary audience that may or may not be familiar already with Greek mythology. And especially where we'll focus, Alba will focus in the Olympian deities and design. And we will analyze, we're covering also the narrative format of myths such as Persephone and Orpheus and Eurydice. Okay, I can't say that in Eurydice.
It's really difficult to say that in English, really.
Right?
Eurydice. Yes,
Eurydice. It's
yes.
No, so we're going to stay with Eurydice. So yeah, press live and follow the link to the streaming because here we go. There you go. That's it. I will see you here in just a few minutes. Thank you so much for that intervention, Alba. That was incredible and so enlightening. And it shows us that video games are indeed a way of transmitting knowledge and culture, and not just entertainment, as some people still consider them. But apparently there was a problem with the English subtitles, but we're not. We're already working on that to be fixed. Again, we have a few minutes until our next speaker joins in, but I'm going to pass, we're going to save, Alba, me voy a pasar directamente a la siguiente, porque vamos un poquillo justos. Remember that after all the interventions, we will have a moment for Q&A, so get ready your questions. And I'm inviting now to joining us Mahur Pourgadim, which I am so excited. Again, I'm telling you how excited I am for everyone to be here. And that is because, well, the good friends of mine, and thank you so much, Mahur, for joining us today. Mahur is none other than a comic artist and illustrator herself, who received her Master's of Fine Arts in Illustration from the University of Tehran and in Iran, and she also a Bachelor for Arts in Persian Miniature and Calligraphy from Al Zahra University. And she is also an alumna of the Sequential Artist Workshop. She's a specialist in comic art and illustration, and I do encourage you to follow Mahur on her socials, because her and her partner Sadaf are creating comics that I cannot wait for them to be there and use them with any excuse on my live streams, because they are so enriching and so enlightening about Iranian culture. And in this presentation that we will be seeing next, Mahur will explore a beautiful word, which is the negargari, which is 15th century Persian illustration and painting. You know, the oldest form of comic, if we can agree on that. And they will be showcasing how Iranian cult is an intellectual mechanism and not just for that to contemplate as beautiful. And negargars use non-realistic storytelling, combining various times and locations and characters. And to merge comics and Persian painting is a new media format that is currently being developed, combining, you know, the negargari style of art with comic readers and how traditional comics are normally approached. So do we have, I see we have the link over here. Let's see if the link is, unfortunately, I cannot access just yet, but I'm pretty sure it will be a matter of like 2 minutes. Let's see. Okay, let's just give it 2 minutes to it. There you go. The link is working, so we can all go to enjoy Mahur's beautiful presentation, and I will see you here in a few moments when the presentation finishes. So thank you again, Mahur, for joining us, and yes, enjoy. Okay, bravo. Like that was fantastic. And I do agree with every single thing that was said on this chat. It was incredible. Thank you so much, Mahur, for sharing your work, your knowledge. I mean, you have some more on your presentation. I didn't expect that, but incredible as always. Thank you so much. And again, feel free to follow Mahur's work and his socials, because it's very much worth it. You won't regret your choices, allow me to say. And we are going to move to our next speaker, also a good friend of mine, because why doing this alone if you can be joined by your dear friends? We are welcoming now Mr. David Morenza, David Morenza, as called by others, who will be talking about the enriching archaeology and the representations of archaeology in video games. David is a high school history teacher who has been teaching since 2020, and he received his degree in geography and history from the University of Vigo in 2015, and his master's in history and the sciences of antiquity in 2016. Throughout the academic studies, David specialized in the ancient history of Rome and historical depictions of it in video games. He has directed the scientific journal El Octavo Historiador, the eighth historian, which studies the representation of history in the modern media, in video games more specifically. And David's main interest is I'm going to keep on calling you David, unfortunately, sorry. Is the ancient legacy in the modern era, and particularly historical depictions in video games. And in his presentation, what we will be seeing is a discussion of the introduction of archaeology in video games, highlighting the situational discovery benefit relationship between material culture and its creators. It focuses on exploration and survival games, which allow the users to explore fictional universes and use archaeology as a connection between distant past and present times. The presentation also analyzes various genres to illustrate this dynamic and its potential for closer connection to what real archaeology is. And let me just see, the link is loading still, but it will be like a matter of 2 minutes. So we can like in 2 minutes we'll be able to move there. So thank you, David, for being with us today.
Thank you, Laura. I'm happy to be here. Let's begin as soon as we can.
There you go. Now the link is on. So I will meet you guys here after David's intervention. So yeah, we'll see you there.
See you later.
Thank you so much, David, for that really interesting talk about one favorite of many, which is No Man's Sky, and then one of the most famous indie games that's out there, which is Outer Wilds. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. I'm pretty sure people will have solid questions. I have so many. First of all, why? But that we can discuss them a little bit later. Thank you again for your presentation. And I think we are good to move to our next speaker, which is a pleasure for me to have joining us today. We are pleased to welcoming Dr. Robert Houghton, and apologies if I'm not pronouncing your surname properly. It's difficult for a Spanish speaker. Too many vowels together. And Dr. Robert Houghton is a senior lecturer in the School of History and Archaeology at the University of Winchester. He joined the university in 2015 as a lecturer in early medieval Europe history. And he previously taught at the University of St Andrews, which I missed. I mean, I got my PhD there. I never got to experience what being a student is. Fortunate times. And he previously taught at the University of Edinburgh as well. He completed an MA and later a PhD on representations of collective action in the Italian proto-communes at the University of St Andrews. And in 2018, he was promoted to senior lecturer. Congratulations on that. A wee bit later, but I mean, belated congratulations, but congratulations on that. And Dr. Houghton also works as a researcher for Museion, is it Greek? So Museion, I got that one, with Paradox Interactive. How casually are we dropping that? A person who works with Paradox and as an editor for The Public Medievalist. If you're not familiar with The Public Medievalist, please do follow the magazine because it's so interesting. And his research addresses networks of politics and power in Italy and the Central Middle Ages, but increasingly concerns engagement with medieval elements through computer and tabletop games. And he has a number of publications. For example, Playing the Crusades. David, I'm looking at you. You love this book, Playing the Crusades from 2021, The Middle Ages in Modern Culture, Conflict and Violence in Medieval Italy. That one though. And Teaching the Middle Ages through Modern Games, which is, I think, my favorite personally. And also Robert is the organizational lead of the annual Middle Ages in Modern Games Twitter X conference and associated events and publications. I also had the privilege of speaking in Leeds under one of his panels, and it was a delight. And what we are going to see is a talk titled Neither Realist Nor Conceptual, Role-Playing Games and Chapman's Dichotomy. Chapman's model categorizes historical games into realistic simulations, which use audiovisuals and linear narratives. And the paper will address this gap because it cannot cover every aspect of history in modern games. And I believe the link is almost there. Is already up. Thank you so much, Robert, for doing this, because I know so many history and video game enthusiasts will enjoy this. Yes, the link is not working, so I will meet you guys here in a few minutes after we'd enjoyed the presentation of I mean, fair does. It is my privilege. I'm really happy you agreed to join us today. Is the link working for you? There we go. Now it is live. So please enjoy the talk from Robert Houghton, and I will see you there in a few minutes. Thank you so much, Dr. Horton, for that talk. It was so illustrative and really like it. Apologies, yeah, from ourselves. Thank you for being so considerate and giving us the script for the talk. I am already clicking on downloaded. And apologies for the audio. Don't worry, I'm pretty sure the team will fix it, no problem. And in the meantime, may I remind you that we're going to have a Q&A session with all the speakers after the last intervention, which will be by Nilüfer Hosti. I can do it. I can do it. I'm supposed to be able to speak Persian. I can do it. So gather all the questions that you may have, then we'll post them in the chat and we will hand them to the speakers. And yes, we are going to move to the last presentation of this first session, panel, whatever you may like, which is, please welcome Nilüfer Yazghasti. Yes, and she's an independent museum professional who received her MA in museology from the National Museum Institute of History of Art, Conservation and Museology at New Delhi in 2021. And she also has a BA in Museum Studies at the University of Esfahan in 2014 and Art Studies from Tarbiyat Modarez University in Iran. And her recent research fellowship at the Université Polytechnique Hauts-de-France. I'm speaking too many languages in this introduction. I'm surprised that I can pull this off. It's centered around the development of digital replicas of museums in the metaverse with an aim to investigate possible social interactions. In the integration in her talk, Nilüfer will cover the integration of cultural heritage and artificial intelligence, something that is, I think, it's hot with a debate whether the AI and art can coexist or not. And also, Nilüfer will be talking about how in Iran, machine vision plays a significant role in describing and identifying cultural heritage, including subject matter, sentiment analysis, or color composition. And this paper will discuss the importance of digital semantic archives and analytical tools for visitors' interpretation of Iranian cultural heritage. The goal is to challenge stereotypes and provide accurate depictions of Iran's cultural heritage using data curated by experts. So the video link is almost up and we can follow that one. And then after this video, we will join here and then the Q&A will start. So if I can ask that all the speakers be ready after Nilüfer's intervention for joining us in here in the chat. Let's see, is the link up? Yes, the link is already up, so we can follow it. And I will see you in just a few minutes. Enjoy. Thank you so much, Niloufar. That was fantastic. I think I would have never considered that those things are possible because I'm not that tech savvy. But this was such an interesting talk. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your experience with us. And now we are entering the Q&A session. So please, if I can ask all the speakers to turn on their cameras and to the audience to leave whatever question they may have on the chat. You can pause them in public and then the speakers themselves can read them and we will answer your questions. Unfortunately, Alba had to go. Alba Secol had to leave for unexpected reasons, but if you have some questions for her, you want to pass them on to me and we'll definitely make them to it. So, okay, first of all, thank you. This was such a fruitful and fantastic panel. I think we mostly covered the ancient paths, modern tracks theme that I thought when thinking about all of you and when putting it together. So thank you for that. And thank you for making the effort. Of course, because I am the moderator, I'm going to take the advantage of asking questions myself. And I think my first question is going to be to Niloufar, if that's okay, because I have so many. Oh, by the way, you speakers can also ask questions to all the speakers. You have that privilege if you'd wish. So Niloufar, throughout your talk, we've seen how interesting looking IA could be to identifying colors, for example, in the case of Iranian art, you showcase the blue. Do you think something similar could be possible for, I don't know, shapes or materials? Again, bear with, I'm not tech savvy. I don't know the possibilities of AI, but do you think the color would be like the first step, and then how far you think we could develop these tools to be useful for museology and user experience?
First of all, hello. We didn't say hello yet, but thank you for your very nice question. The point is that I think I have mentioned in the very first part, recognizing similarities and patterns. So apart from the color index, we are able to realize the details. For instance, I said the miniature painting, as you may aware of the complex geometry in the miniature painting. And apart from that, it has done by MoMA that they linked their current exhibition to the previous art that they acquired long time ago. And in terms of shape, geometry, or at some point they realize, for instance, that what are the possible even feeling of painters, artists when they created those artifacts. But the point is that it demands a very well, maybe researchers and a group of people to train AI for this understanding, because I believe every collection demands those people who are deep in the research of the specific culture, and then those data could be implemented to AI through digital and technology experts.
Okay, so there's a lot of work to be done, which is promising. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. Alberto has a question for Mahur, and I want to join that question. Have you any project on adapting the whole Shahnameh? Okay, so I think that's my fault. That Alberto has, I would love to see that. I mean, do you?
But first of all, hello, and thank you for having me here. I don't know what the answer to that would be, because personally I would love to do that, but it's going to be, as you know, if I ever actually decide on doing it, it's going to be a lifetime project. But so far I have done 7 pages from visually translating 7 pieces from Shahnameh of Shah Tahmasp. And I realized that it's going to probably, it might kill me in the process, but if I ever decide to do that, yes, it would be an honor, but not the whole Shahnameh, maybe some specific stories. And no offense to people who like Rostam, but maybe not the Rostam part of the story, because I think many people have focused on his story already, and there are many great more great characters, many more great stories to be explored, and probably I'll be focusing on those if I ever decide to do a project on Shahnameh.
I mean, I personally am not the biggest fan of Rostam. Like Mahur started with the best story of them all, which is a story of Simorg. We don't need Rostam. We're good. we're actually good. Oh wow, there's a lot. Lubna has checked with me some questions for you guys, but I actually have one myself that I wanted to ask Robert Houghton, since I have the privilege of having him here for a direct talk. So Robert, you've emphasized how important it is to create empathetic games, and you've also given many titles, which I think is fantastic because people can experience them themselves. And also, when you talk about empathy, have you ever in your work or in other dimensions explored some other areas of the history of mentality, such as emotions, war trauma, and how these impact in history, and how we could translate them into the video games? I know, like, more or less the talk was about Chapman's approach, but have you had the opportunity to create a more like direct research connection with emotion and dealing with how this could be affected when, jointly with game designing? And if you do, where can we buy it? How can we read it?
Well, thank you. It's important to immediately flag up some, I'd say, imposter syndrome, but in this case, it's fully justified. I ended up looking at empathetic history largely by accident. I've been playing a lot of role-playing games, or games with role-playing elements in them, because I've been studying a lot of games about the Middle Ages. And I was just thinking about, where do role-playing games fit into this idea? Because yes, they have graphical elements, but that's not really how they engage with the past. It's all about trying to match your experience. I know this is something that's not unique to computer games. It's something that we can see. Well, comics are a great example for many of these. It's a way of interacting with the past, engaging with the past in a very different way from linear written texts. And this was the thing. This got me into there's a lot of scholarship here already about empathetic games. So things like This War of Mine, Papers, Please, and so forth. There are these games which aren't really about presenting this graphical representation of the past, which is brilliant, which can be really interesting, whether it's from films like 300 through to various different comic strips to various different games and so forth, or which use their mechanics to represent history, things like Civilization and so forth. But it feels like it's a very different way of engaging with the past. I've been encountering a few bits and pieces, mainly using tabletop face-to-face role-playing. There's a whole project looking at ancient Egypt, early medieval Egypt, so Byzantine Egypt, where it's basically a group of academics, relative experts in the field, have got together and just played the game. I suppose the short answer is I have no active suggestions, but if you've got any ideas at all, if anyone's come across anything along these lines, then I'd love to hear from you all.
Unfortunately, I don't have any, but I will do my brainy work, and my brain is hurt. But because something I've seen in video game production is where whenever this empathy is put first and incorporated in the gameplay, the tendency is to connect it towards more postmodern events, such as the two Great Wars, or conflicts that people can technically resonate more with, because as the past gets further and further from us, it feels like we displace ourselves as the narrators and as the protagonists of it. Whereas I do think that it could be possible. I would love to see a game properly made on the Achaemenids, perhaps one day. I haven't had a chance yet, but I don't lose my faith. But definitely that is super interesting. And of course, I'm not speaking as the moderator here, I'm speaking as a fan. Please do read what Robert Horton writes, because I am sure you're going to love it. Like, there's so many people interested in video games and how they present or how they approach the historical discourse, and there's so many things, because you know how we enjoy pointing out what's wrong. That is such a fun thing to do, and like, oh no, this is a disaster. But also there's so many things that recent titles do right. This is simple, but you know, Assassin's Creed Valhalla and the Vikings not having horns on the headpieces, that is so on point. That slowly but steadily.
So just to reply, so thank you. That again, that's incredibly generous, but please don't worry to really read what I've been writing. Maybe pick up the articles I've done and just look at the bibliography, because there's a vast amount of stuff on computer games which is done by people who have thought these things through to a much greater extent than me. But no, thank you. I'll take this quite happily entirely. But no, it's a vast and vibrant field, and indeed we've got multiple people here who have been furiously adding to my reading list today. So thank you very much for this.
I mean, thank you for being here. And myself, I have also a question for Alberto. I do have a question for my vizier, because I can. And we've seen how comics are such a powerful tool to represent this historical quote-unquote discourse. What is the craziest thing you've found when putting together this presentation? Because I have it on good authority that you've seen some things. Can you share the experience with us?
You know what comic I am talking about, because we have seen it. It's not so related to archaeology. It's more related to historical moment. But in Action Comics #1, it is very well known because it's the first comic that Superman get published. But there was the comics in this time were huge, 64 pages of tiny stories, and Superman was only one of these stories. Other was Marco Polo. And if 3,000 is not so well adapted from history, Marco Polo is on another level. In this comic, we met Marco Polo, that is some guy from one gym of some country, because he's so in well form. and no, there is no point well adapted in the comic. I have collected all these strips for you.
I know.
and it doesn't end.
Yeah, and I think I remember you sent me a panel where it says, "Oh, I got myself a Farsi translator. The savage language these people speak." Like, dude, what do you mean savage? It's terrible. It's like,
it's terrible. And also it gets cancelled. It doesn't end. We won't know the ending of this chapter, and I think this is the worst thing that I say in comics, because talking about politics, the terrorism, we have Frank Miller, the author of 3000. Oh, surprise! that he has another book, Holy Terror, that is terrible, but it's terrible on political views, on he's a racist.
He's a little bit racist, yeah. He has, things.
And it's terrible, but not so on history. On history, Marco Polo, the best. Another level.
Marco Polo is the worst thing. Although I do remember that we were discussing how this could be, and what, because as you mentioned, the comic is fruit of its time. So it was following a particular mindset and some views on the Middle East that have not changed. And of course, it presents you like, the desert and this beautiful Orientalism that one day we might shake off of our media product. So thank you so much, because that one was fun. That one was terrifying as much as it was fun. David Morenza, I have a question for you too. By the way, I am holding the microphone, but please, if you do have questions, throw them at people's, not faces, because we want to be gentle here, but just throw them in the chat and I will read them to you. And we'll have some questions for Alba, but she's not here. I will pass them to her. So what is it that motivates you to study the representation of archaeology in video games? Why do you think you were drawn to this topic?
I think that it's because, well, I have been playing all my life, so that's a very big point of interest for me. But apart from that, I think that playing gets us in a position where we have to learn about a lot of things. Archaeology can be one of the things. I usually study history, but I think that through play, we force ourselves to be, to put ourselves in a lot of different people's skins, and we can develop a lot of skills and abilities that we usually don't. I'm trying to.
If it's easier for you, I can translate. Si te resulta más fácil, puedo traducirlo yo, ¿eh? ¿Seguro?
No. El problema está en mi cabeza. The problem is in my mind, not in the language.
English is not the problem, but it is. Because we all three, Alberto, David, and I share one brain cell, and it's currently dancing. So
you can't speak, David. I think that the best thing about video games is they force us to learn a lot of things, and they make them relevant to us. We have to learn, because learning, we can have fun and we can live a lot of different lives. In one of the games I analyzed for this conference, otherwise you have to be an archaeologist, and you have to be a historian, and you have to talk with a lot of people. You have to make it relevant for you if you want to solve the game, because it's part of the game, making it relevant for you. And I think that's what I like most about video games, and video games related with archaeology, with history, with language, with everything. I don't know if I answered the question. I'm not sure, but
no, you did certainly. I mean, it's I really like it. I know that you follow closely that the progress of video games that interact with archaeology. And also I remember that Alba had not a question, but also more a comment that she really enjoyed in your presentation, that despite it being in a quote unquote fictional fantasy fictional world, it still was an archaeological activity. I think that is one of the most interesting things about the two titles you presented, that it's not historical archaeology or like what we commonly would associate with archaeology, excavating ancient ruins, but it is archaeology nonetheless. You are doing an archaeological exercise, and I think it's super, super interesting seeing that in sci-fi settings, which sometimes they explore this trope of there was an ancient civilization that it was lost. And in that sense, you do that in other titles. I'm thinking Zelda mostly, and also in the latest Final Fantasy 16, not spoilers though, but there is an ancient civilization. I won't spoil it for you. But there's other games in which there's a historical narrative, a historical timeline put on you. And then when they refer to these ancient artifacts, that's archaeology. That is like if we found that the Lamassu at Persepolis, if you, I don't know, click on their noses, they do something. It's like, oh, we're using this magical artifact. These creatures can fly. That is archaeology. You're interacting with the artifacts. Again, one brain cell. Oh, Tilly has a question for Mahur. What are your thoughts on using comics as a method of publishing archaeological info? And you also like peer-reviewed archaeological info. I think, Alberto, you also have something to say about this. So Mahi, do you want to go first? And if you want to add something, Alberto, it would be
Hello again. Well, using comics for archaeological info, actually comics are being used as a educational tool. So I was actually thinking about it when we were talking in the middle of the session, and right now where you were talking about gaming and that the fact that it's archaeology. I was actually thinking about it, and one of my concerns is that the younger generation, especially here in Iran, they're not really in touch with their historical heritage, and comics is I think it's one of the best ways we can connect with them and teach them about that heritage, teach them about archaeology, and use it as a educational tool for them, because it has a lot of potentials, both when it comes to narrative and when it comes to art and everything really. As you said in the sessions before, comics is something that it kind of never gets the attention it deserves, and it has a lot of potential for all of that. And I think it would be great if we use comics for educating people about archaeology and all of that. I don't know if that answers the question.
I think it does. I remember because this is not the first time in my personal experience that I talk about Takht Javidan, which is an Iranian comic made in Iran about Iran, and people don't know it exists.
Yeah.
And sometimes people ask me, "Oh, do you have a comic? Can I read it?" You can buy it in Iran. I mean, Khorrash Studios has the headquarters. I forgot the name of the street, but I've been. I mean, they passed the headquarters of Khorrash Studios. And I also agree that
they recently relocated, but yes.
Oh, but they're still in Tehran, aren't they?
Yeah, they're still in Tehran. And
so you have already artists.
Yeah, the thing is, sadly, the comic community in Iran, we don't actually have a comic community when it comes to artists and writers. We do have an audience. As I said, it's like very popular here, especially mangas. And but we don't have a community of artists or writers. There are very few of us here, and I always make a joke about it. I always say that if you just put all of us in an apartment and blow up the apartment, the whole comic community will be like, we need another 40 years for another generation to grow up and start comics. So that's it. That's like, I think 30 and 40 of us in the 80 million people. So I imagine that's one of the main reasons that people don't know that we actually have comics in Iran. So that's actually one thing Sadaf and I, my partner and I are trying to do. We're trying to teach it. We're trying to turn these artists, these young artists who want to do comics, into comic artists, because you know, maybe in 10 years we can see more titles about Iran and about history and about culture, maybe someday.
I am pretty sure you will do you're doing your part already, and you have no idea how relevant the work you and Sadaf and the other artists, because I'm thinking our friend Paddy here, are making. So definitely, because again, comics have the audience and the interest. I think we have time for one more question, and if no one is taking the fall, I will. I mean, I have a question and I will use it. This is a warning. So before I do ask, has anyone else in the room, in the session, have a question? This sounded very threatening. It was not a threat, it was a question.
But it was the last question, or your question, or because you have room for just one question.
Just one. If someone wants to take it, I will make the question private to the speaker afterwards. But if you want to ask something, I mean, I don't need any help being verbose. I am very much on point. Estás pensando fuerte. Estás pensando muy fuerte.
Sí, pero no soy capaz de... I'm trying to make my mind about a question that I have more or less organized, but
not succeeding.
I'll try to explain the question because it's for all of you. So
okay.
I'll try to explain the question the best I can. Sorry for being a complete disaster. Okay, sorry. Do you think that all modern media, cinema, series, comic, video games, try to encourage certain type of empathy, so they encourage this polarization, this esta forma de ver el mundo, this
a particular way of seeing the modern world.
This way of seeing the modern world, in which we have Occident, Orient, or East, West, and the more we see this, or buy, play, listen to this media, we are more polarized, more...
Okay, like bias, or like...
I don't, bias, more... I don't know if I expressed correctly what I...
No, I think you did. I think, I think you did. That's a very interesting question. So, what do you guys think?
What do you think?
I have an idea on this question, because I think those things that David has talked about, video games, comics, series, cinema, have a lot of people with a lot of money behind, and these people has a lot of ideas, political ideas, and I think this can be the problem with this representation, because money talks. When these people want to get some product, this product will be the first or the only that will get to the public. And this is a very difficult issue to fight against.
But I do agree with you, because my case study for this would be Assassin's Creed Odyssey. You have a representation of ancient Hellas, which is on point, perfect. There's people dedicated to it artistically, narratively, socially. And then when they present the Achaemenid, I'm sorry, I'm taking the ball to my court. When you represent the Achaemenid Empire, that officially is the worst Xerxes I've ever seen in modern media. And I know that the 300 is out there in the world. I know what I'm saying. Rodrigo Santoro's Xerxes is better than this one. And you see that was not because of the lack of money. It was a lack of interest, and also an intention to maintain this role of the East as, what's the word? Que no me sale. That tyrant, like tyranny, emotional, but not in a good way, in the gut feeling emotional. And when you see all the resources dedicated to create a very good and accurate Hellas, like, what happened? Interest happened. So yes, I agree 100% with you. Money and political interest talk.
And if I may say just one thing, I think that it's not just money and politics, because Assassin's Creed Odyssey, for example, Hellas, it's not really well depicted. It's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster. It's like,
is it?
Yes.
It convinced me.
Spartans against Athenians, and there's no more. There's not other police. There is anything. Just Spartans against Athenians, and that's it. It's not Pelopon. I don't know how it's in English. The
Peloponnesian War. La Guerra del Peloponeso. Some words are very difficult English. What are you doing?
Peloponnesian War, but everything is incorrect, because they want to sell the archetypical depiction of the Peloponnesian War. It's Spartans with almost, not just Spartans, all Greeks without armor, with almost no clothes, because I guess people go to war naked. In ancient times, they were sturdier than us, I guess. And all of these different stereotypes just reproduce and get more and more and more abused. So with every turn of the wheel, we just contribute to create more and more stereotypical depictions. I think it's more a problem of trying to target certain public that wants to see Spartans and think, I'm like them. I'm a Spartan.
It's literally me.
I'm a Greek. And
literally me.
Literally me.
Literally me.
It's me. I think it's also all, of course, money and politics have a lot.
Robert, I think you wanted to add something.
I just wanted to say this is, it's a really important question. I think it's certainly a really big issue with computer games. I imagine it's very similar with comics. I'm pretty sure it's the same for most modern media. I suppose, it's a major pitfall, but I suppose this is the thing. It's about getting different voices from people who don't look like me, maybe 10 years ago. And a lot of these representations, we can get an authentic representation of medieval Persia from an Iranian perspective. This would be incredible. This would be of interest to a much larger audience than I think it's credited for. And we're reaching a point where you can get access to that, but I appreciate there's many, many obstacles in the way of getting hold of this. There will always be a fairly sizable negative reaction from certain sectors. But rather than seeing this as a massive dumpster fire, I think there's a lot of potential here. And I'm very cautiously optimistic. I've seen these media be used for terrible, terrible things, but I've seen beautiful things come out of them as well. So I suppose very much double-edged sword.
It is definitely, and I love this question, and I wish we had more time to expand on it, but this is coming to an end. And quoting a very famous Spanish artist, I just want to say, grateful and emotional, I can only say, thank you for coming. Agradecida y emocionada, solamente puedo decir, gracias por venir. Thank you, Lina Morgan in all our hearts. Thank you so much for attending this first session of ArchTalk. We will be seeing each other, I think, in like about 10 to 15 minutes. And I believe, Lubna, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're going to use this same link for session 2, which is as interesting as one, if not more, which is climate change and cultural heritage. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tilly. Thank you. Same link, yes, so we can, go fetch a refreshment, something to drink, something to eat, or whatever, and we will be seeing each other. What time is it? 15. Well, 15 here, 15:40 UTC +2, 14:40 then UTC +1. I can't do time zones. Please, someone help me. This is my desperate cry for getting help with time zones because they don't work in my brain. I don't understand how do we have different clocks in the world. Yes, 2:40. Yeah, thank you. The gin whisper.